6:03, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Essential Career Skills Series. This is series number 2, actually, so we have series 0 and series 1 as well, and I'll share at the end the certificate associated with the program, so we can also earn those. This is session 1 of 4 this semester, so we'll have a few more, but this session is focused around being career ready. So career readiness is the foundation for understanding how you can communicate your experiences and your skills to employers during the job interview process. Career readiness is quite simply the new career currency, so being able to communicate these skills and be self-aware of what your skills are and how you can use those to your advantage is really going to land you an awesome job and progress in your career very quickly. So achieving career readiness has 3 pillars: rigorous academic preparation, which you get by being a student here at Purdue and attending your classes and getting that knowledge; opportunity knowledge, which is the skills that you get outside of the classroom by attending sessions like this, and any student organizations or any involvements that you're a part of. And the personal agency is taking initiative and seeking out these opportunities to develop yourself so that you are indeed career ready. So this series is focused around lead competencies as well. So these composed of 4 competencies, which are communication, self-awareness, collaboration, and ways of thinking, and these are also the titles for the sessions. And each session focuses around one of the competencies. So here, you're at self-awareness. In the end, we hope Boilermakers are known to be communicators, collaborators, self-aware, and thinkers. And this is some language you can use in your future job interview as well. So like I said, today's session is self-awareness. And these are the 5 skills that are in the self-awareness competency. And today we have a guest speaker who will talk about a few of these skills and share his experiences. I will introduce our guest speaker. Prabodh Sonalkar, or also goes by Pavi, is originally from Mumbai, India, where he received his Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering. He came to Purdue for his Master's of Science in Mechanical Engineering and graduated in 2021. While Pavi was at Purdue, he worked at the ACE Campus Food Pantry, where he started as a volunteer and then moved into a student director role. And after graduating, he accepted a job at Focus, a nonprofit consulting organization. He worked there for a year and a half and then transitioned to Lippert, where he worked as a process engineer for a little over a year. In recent news, just this week actually, Pavi transitioned back to Focus as a mechanical engineer. Please join me in welcoming Pavi.
Okay, is this on? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, hi everyone. Thank you for being here today. Thank you, Eileen and Jesus, for having me here. Wow, this is great. Yeah, I'm so excited to be back on campus. It's been a while. It's also been a while since I talked in front of people like yourself. So at any point, if you see me blinking or if you hear my voice cracking, bear with me. I have my cheat sheet over here. But I really appreciate you guys being here today. I'm going to try to make this session as interactive as possible. So there are going to be some questions and we're going to have 2 activities throughout the session. So today I am going to talk about self-awareness. Just a quick disclaimer, I am not an expert in any of the topics that I'm going to talk about, but this is 100% solely on my experience as a quote-unquote young professional. So let's get started. Before I tell you guys what I think self-awareness is, I want to know your thoughts on it. Because I think depending on your perspective, your definition of self-awareness is going to change. And that perspective matters more than the actual definition. So let me ask you this. What is self-awareness to you? What comes to mind when you hear the word self-awareness? Would anyone like to share? Go ahead.
To me, it involves an introspection where you look back on your actions and how you potentially improve or what you did well.
Okay, awesome. Somebody raise your hand. Go ahead.
I guess it involves like just being aware of your strengths and weaknesses and how you can get better and how you can also capitalize on your strengths.
Okay, perfect. We'll do one last one. You want? Okay, that's okay. So, exactly. Perspectives, your definition is going to change based on what your needs are in that moment. For me, self-awareness is knowing what's important to you, your values, your beliefs, your strengths and weaknesses. And I think, so there are a lot of things that are included in this topic of self-awareness, but unfortunately I can't talk about everything. So I'm going to talk about two topics that I found useful when I started my professional journey. I'm going to talk about continuous learning and self-understanding. I did not put the question up here. Okay. So you guys must have seen the news about all those layoffs that, have been happening since the beginning of this year. It's a terrible thing. I feel like every time I go on LinkedIn, I see at least one post related to it, and a lot of quotes and motivational advice from people who are very conveniently secure in their jobs. But there was this one post that I saw that I really liked, and I tried to find it to share it with you guys, but unfortunately I couldn't. But it went something like this. It said, you get a job by showing how much you know, your knowledge, your skills. But you're successful in that job by expanding your knowledge and skills by learning new things. So, go ahead. Sorry. So, I will share why I like that post. I loved it because I could relate to it a lot. I've been to a lot of career fairs here at Purdue. I've been to 5 Purdue career fairs as a recruiter, and I've done even more interviews. So, before I talk more about it, let me ask you guys this. What do you think are some of the skills that recruiters look for in a candidate? Now, there are a lot of things, but I'm looking for a very particular one. So, but
Passion?
okay. More?
Continuous learning.
Continuous learning. Exactly. That's the one I was looking for. Would you a few more? You're going to say that? Anyone else?
Being able to make adaptability.
Perfect. Exactly. So, being able to learn new things is a very important skill that recruiters or whoever you're talking to at career fairs will look for. No matter how much you know or what you bring to the table in that moment, each company has its own way of operating. And once you start, you're going to have to learn that way. Now, I can't speak about different fields, but in manufacturing, it's said to take 4 to 6 months to learn new ways, just to learn how a company operates. 4 to 6 months. So adaptability is a very important skill that recruiters look for. Now, one way to show that skill is by trying out new things, learning new things. It can be those extracurricular courses you take, your internship, your certifications, but it doesn't have to be anything academic. It could be your hobbies, your volunteering experiences, your part-time job. So let me ask you what your preferences are. And this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the presentation, but I just want to kind of understand my audience. So I'm going to ask you guys a question, and I'm going to ask you to close your eyes so that your responses are not influenced by others. And if that applies to you, just raise your hands, okay? So raise your hands if you always prioritize learning things that will help you academically and professionally over things that won't. Okay, great, thank you. You can open your eyes, hands down, perfect. Like I said, it was just for me to read the room and see how much you could relate to the presentation, but I'm happy with the response. Thank you for doing that. Now, obviously, I don't have to tell you guys how and why it's important to learn things that will help you academically and professionally. I feel like when you're a student, that's all you hear about, all the time. You go to career fairs, and you go to career counselings, all they tell you is, do this course, it will boost your resume, or do this certification or internship that will help you get the job you want. And it's all true. It's all true, it's all very important. But I think doing things that you can do just for yourself is just as important. All those academic and professional stuff is personally a very traditional way of looking at continuous learning. And you guys already know all that. So I'm not going to talk about it today. Instead, I'm going to take a rather non-traditional approach to this continuous learning topic. Because like I said, I think in my experience, those things are just as important as all those courses and certifications you can take. Now, today, we live in a world and time where mental health has becoming a growing issue. I did my master's during COVID time, and you guys can imagine how stressful that was. And I'm sure most of you had similar experiences. And I am no expert in mental health by any means, but I think doing things just for yourself, the things that you find fun, that you can learn from, will help with that. So I'm going to share my experience and why I think this non-traditional continuous learning is helpful, and hopefully you can relate to it a little bit. So here's my story of non-traditional continuous learning. Like I said, while I was doing my program, I think I was 5 months into it when COVID hit and everything shut down. It was very stressful. I was very lonely. But I was taking courses in that semester, so I pushed through. But I wasn't doing anything in that summer semester. So just to have something to do, I decided to take some online courses, in this traditional category. They were good courses. I can't argue about that. But they didn't really help me with what I was going through. They kept reminding me of finishing my program and getting a job. And if you guys were following, the job market at the time was terrible. So it kept stressing me out. So instead of doing that, I decided to do something different, something non-academic, something that will get my focus away from all the things that stress me. Through a friend, I was introduced to this organization on campus called ACE Campus Food Pantry. Does anyone know what that is? Do you know what that is? Can you share?
So the food pantry, what they are is that they help students who have, they can't afford the meal plan, and they work with them to help with points that they can get certain food products and hygiene products when they need it.
Perfect, thank you. So, just like she said, ACE Campus Food Pantry is an organization here on campus that operates to fight food insecurity. And if you guys have not been there, check it out. It's awesome. It's how I met the people who organized this event, and I feel like that's also why I'm here, kind of. But to get back to the point, the organization runs on volunteers, and when I first went there, I looked at it and I thought it was something that I would enjoy. It seemed like something that would bring meaningfulness to what I was doing. So I decided to offer help because it was a volunteer one. And honestly, I don't even know if they were looking for volunteers at the time, but I decided to offer help anyways. I worked there twice a week for the rest of the summer semester, and I loved it so much that I decided to take on a leadership role at the food pantry for the next year. And I worked there. I loved it so much that I worked there until the last day of my program. It had nothing to do with what I was studying. It was not something that I wanted to do professionally, but I did it anyways. And if I'm being honest, that experience taught me more about myself, about just in general soft skills, as you can say, than anything else that I did in those 2 years. It taught me how to work with people with different titles, how to take on a responsibility that affects the operations of an organization, a community of people that other people rely on, and then deliver on that responsibility. It taught me how to be a good colleague, how to offer help to colleagues, how to build and maintain meaningful relationships. But most importantly, it taught me one of my core values, helping the community. And that realization put me on a path that I'm on today. And I find it absolutely fascinating how the things you do just for yourself, just for fun, can teach you so much about yourself that you didn't know. It can open up more pathways for you that you didn't know existed. That realization is the reason why I decided to take on the job at the nonprofit. Without it, I don't know where I would have been. When I was a student, just like any other STEM student, I wanted to work at a fancy, popular tech company. But I don't know where I would have been if I hadn't had that realization, and I can be sure that I would not have been as happy and satisfied as I am right now. Learning new things just for yourself will end up teaching you more things about yourself than you can imagine. And the best part about this is it can be anything. It can be your hobbies, it can be a part-time job, anything you want to learn. And if you don't like it, you don't have to see it through. You can just do something else. But this attitude of learning new things, wanting to try out different things, is what matters the most. When I got comfortable at my nonprofit job, I asked our hiring manager why he decided to hire me. Because you could do that. And he told me very bluntly that I did not have a good work experience to show for it at the time. But I did have a lot of things that showed that I like to learn new things and that I was a fast learner. And of course, I spoke very passionately about helping the community, and it being a nonprofit, it was a plus point. But isn't it crazy that he prioritized that experience over my GPA, any of the courses that I took, and my non-existent work experience. I guess the point I'm trying to make is, while learning new things that will help you academically and professionally is important, try not to neglect the things that you can do just for yourself. They will probably not help you in a direct way pass the course, but they will teach you a lot about yourself, which matters just as much. Now, of course, there are some restrictions to that also. Life's not that simple, right? Just make sure whatever you decide to do, it's productive, and you balance your time well with the things that are important. What I'm trying to say is, I don't want to create an impression that you can play video games for 10 hours, just for fun, you know? So, we're going to do an activity. Yep, I was right this time. Activity 1, and it has different areas that you can learn new things in. So I want you to write down things that you can learn, or the things that you are learning right now in those areas. And it's just for you. We're not going to share any of the information, so try to be as open and honest about it. If you have any questions, I'll be right here. All right. Looks like most of you are done. So now you have a list to work on. I feel like it's easier to come up with things that you can learn in a traditional category, because you know your field, you know what it takes to be successful in that field, so it's easier to come up with what you can learn. But this non-traditional category can take some dedication and discipline to get the most out of it. But if you do, you're going to learn a lot about yourself. And that brings me to my next topic, self-understanding. Of course, this is also a very broad topic, so I can't cover everything, but there are two things that I found particularly useful and something that I would like to share with you guys. First one doesn't really have a title. It seems very simple in theory, but in practice it's really hard. I'll give you guys a scenario, and then we'll talk about it. So, here's the scene. Imagine, and try to visualize it, try to imagine that you are in that situation. Imagine you're at work, you're having a casual conversation with your colleagues, and your boss storms in and asks you for an update on something that you're working on in a rather aggressive way, in a like an angry and rushed way. If that happened to you, what will you do? What will happen in the next 20 seconds? It's not a trick question, I promise. You want me to repeat the question? Okay. Try to imagine yourself in that situation. Imagine you're at work, you're having a casual conversation with your colleagues, and your boss storms in and asks you for an update in an angry and rushed way. What will happen?
Well, I try to explain my current progress with whatever the project is calmly, and indicate that I could prioritize that or push that up against my other tasks if necessary.
Okay, that's a very good answer. Anyone else?
Before saying what I'm going to say to my boss, I would try to tell my colleague to go somewhere else first so I can have a private conversation with my boss.
Okay, that's good. Anyone else? Good.
I'll probably lie that it's almost done, and you'll get it tonight.
Okay, all right. So, very similar to what I would have said if I was asked this question. If I was asked this question in an interview, I would have said, I will take notice that my boss is not in a good mood and that he's in a hurry, so I'll compose myself and give him the precise answer that he's looking for. You guys want to know what I actually did when that happened to me? I panicked so bad because first I was caught off guard. Second, I thought my boss was mad at me for doing something wrong. And third, everyone started looking at me, so I freaked out. And obviously, I did not give him the answer he was looking for. I started rambling to make it worse. Now, I won't get into why that happened and if it was right of him to present himself that way. But the truth is, things like that will happen at work. They probably happen now, today, with you guys. The difference is, when you're at work, you're expected to act professionally and in a composed manner. So the important part about self-understanding is knowing your emotional and mental response in difficult situations like this. If you don't take conscious actions to change that response, it's never going to change. If there's something that scares you or makes you nervous, and if you don't do anything about it, it will always make you nervous and scare you. So knowing how you might react in a situation can allow you to come up with some ways to make it a little bit better. Now obviously it's not easy, but in order to do that, in order to take that first step, the thing you need to do first is to understand it. Now, if my boss comes up to me and asks me a question like that, in that scenario, I'll still panic, because that's just me, I can't change that. But knowing how I reacted will probably allow me to maybe ask for a second to think about what he's asking for, and then compose the answer and give it to him instead of rambling. The tricky thing about this is you won't know your actual reaction until it happens. It's not something that you can practice. You can't create a situation that will make you panic, right? So what I'll encourage you guys to do is be aware. Keep thinking about it. When you're having an interaction with someone, try to remember not just what you said in that conversation, but how you felt. What was your emotional state? You can have different responses in that same interaction based on your emotional state. You will use different words, you will feel different in that same interaction if you're annoyed versus if you simply don't care. But knowing how you respond in a specific emotional state will allow you to think of ways you might react in situations that bring up those same emotions. And like I said, it's not easy. It takes time. There are going to be times when you'll look back and think, damn, it happened again. I wanted to act or say something else, but I just freaked out and I said something totally different. And it's okay. It really is. It happens to everyone. But at work or in a professional setting, what's important is that you make that progressive improvement. In my 3 years of professional experience and a lot of extracurricular activities that I was part of when I was here, I learned that you can be as great of a worker as you want, but people will remember you more not by the great work you did, but by what kind of a person you are. How you treat other people, your professionalism, your attitude towards work, and how passionate you are about what you do. There are, in the job market, I work at a consulting firm, so I've seen a lot of companies up close. I've talked to a lot of people who work at those companies. In the job market right now, honestly, there are a lot of high-functioning people who go to work simply because they have to provide for themselves, to provide for their family. What's really missing from the workforce right now are the people who are passionate about what they do. Passionate enough to change. Passionate enough to change the way they act at work. And if you take that initiative and work on yourself, trust me, people will notice that. Not just your boss, all the people that you interact with. And they will value you more for those skills than just doing a good job. The second thing in self-understanding, and I think it's probably the most important one, are your values. In general, your values are the things that you think are important. Your relationships, your family, friends, personal growth, empathy, compassion, all that fun stuff. But what I will encourage you to do is think a little bit deeper and try to find out what your core values are. Those are the values that define who you are. Those are the values that you live by. And those are the values that will decide at the end of the day if you're happy and satisfied with whatever's going on in your life. Now, it's okay to not know what your core values are. And honestly, in time, they will change. Their priorities will change. Like, I don't have a family of my own right now. So it's not in my core values. But when I get it, it will probably be at the top. So knowing what's important to you right now is very important in general in life and also to make good decisions. If I had not had that realization about helping community being my core value, I would not have accepted a job at a nonprofit. And I don't know where I would have been, but I would not have been as happy and satisfied with how things are now. So I will encourage you to think a little bit deeper to find out what's important to you. Now, of course, I can't do that in a 1-hour session, so I have another activity for you guys. But before we give that out, I just want to describe what it is. So it has a few scenarios in there, and I want you guys to write down what you would do in that scenario. Really try to imagine yourself in there. And also write down what values are associated with those decisions. Now, in real life, it's going to be really hard. It's not going to be that simple because there are going to be a lot of other factors that your decision will depend on. But for the sake of this activity, just assume that anything that's not mentioned in the activity is same in both situations. And there are some things that I left vague intentionally. So your answer might not be one option versus the other. You might say, well, it depends. So I want you guys to think real hard about what that thing is that your decision depends on, and at what intensity does your decision change from one to the other. Because more likely than not, that thing that your answer depends on is going to be another value that's important to you. So, go ahead. There are no wrong answers because this is about you, what you prefer in life. And obviously, super confidential, you don't have to share it with anyone, so be as honest as you can. Alright, so for the sake of time, we're going to continue, and I only have some closing remarks, but thank you for doing it so sincerely. You can finish it later if you want. So, knowing your core values and living your core values is going to have a direct impact in your quality of life. If at any point in your life, if you feel like something's missing or you're not feeling fulfilled, I encourage you to explore what that thing is that will make you feel better, because more likely than not, it's going to be one of your core values that needs attending to. So keep your eyes open and try to learn as much as you can about yourself, because other than all the courses and certifications that you'll do, it's just as important. With that, I conclude the presentation. Thank you all.